Donald Trump has spent another day in a New York courthouse. As we've reported this week, the state attorney general is seeking $250 million in fines in a civil fraud case. And today's proceedings come after a controversy that once again revolved around something the former U.S. president has posted online. That's led the judge to impose a limited gag order. The CBC's Chris Reyes has been following the latest on day 3 of the trial and joins us live from outside that federal courthouse in Manhattan. So, Chris, it's been a dramatic day in and out of court today. Walk us through the latest.
That's right. Well, Trump has left the building after sitting through 2.5 days, Andrew, of court proceedings. He left at lunch break, went straight to LaGuardia Airport. He's expected back on the campaign trail in the coming days. Now, you could say that he treated the courthouse as a campaign stop, talking to cameras at every opportunity to rail against the attorney general, to rail against the judge that is part of this trial, and to rail against this case altogether. Now, one thing that he did seem pretty happy about, the fact that the financial statements of his company, the Trump Organization, were laid to bear in court these last couple days as his former accountant was grilled on the stand. He said those statements, which included the valuation of his properties at the very heart of this case, is proof that he's very much a business success. Have a listen to what he said.
As you saw today, with the kind of cash I have and the kind of success we've had. But I'm a private company. I was never going to reveal this kind of stuff, but now it comes out. It comes out because a corrupt attorney general sued me for fraud. And then they found out they had no case.
So, Andrew, the Attorney General, Letitia James, who hasn't spoken since she first gave comments to media on those steps right behind me in the courthouse at the very start of the trial, finally gave a reaction to Trump's many comments, including his insults against her. He called those comments race baiting. He said, she also said that many of his comments were baseless, without fact, and frankly, she's pretty happy that he's gone.
The Donald Trump show is over. This was nothing more than a political stunt, a fundraising stop. And now we can continue to go forward with our trial, and we are confident that justice will be served.
And Andrew, just to give you a sense of schedule, the Attorney General has submitted a witness list with 28 people on it, and Trump is at the very bottom of that list. So that could be the next time that we see him back in court. This trial expected to last until mid to late December, unless he shows up for other witness testimony. Also on the list, his adult children, Donald Jr., Eric, Ivanka, and then depending on how quickly they go through witnesses, Michael Cohen, his former fixer and lawyer, is number 5 on that list. We're at witness number 2 today.
And so, Chris, so much happening outside the court. What did we hear in court today?
That's right. Well, what we heard really was a line-by-line going through the Trump Organization's financial statements. Trump's former accountant tasked to prepare those statements, Donald Bender, basically said that it was really Trump and his executives that were in charge of putting all of the information in those statements, and that he and his firm just compiled them. But he also testified in a pretty aggressive cross-examination that there was nothing in those statements that stood out to him as an asset that was inappropriately valued. And I think, Andrew, that's what we're going to see in testimony in the weeks ahead, is this really tedious combing through of Trump's business, and it will be up to one judge to rule what the future of that business is. And then just to add, Trump has already submitted and filed an appeal for the ruling that the same judge made last week, finding him and his associates liable of part of the allegations of fraud in this case.
Chris, thank you. That is the CBC's Chris Reyes live in New York.